What's up, folks? Today I'm going to be talking about a quite controversial movie in a franchise or series of movies. And well, the franchise I'm going to be talking about today is the Harry Potter franchise. And the movie I'm talking about, probably already guessed it. No, it's not Half-Blood Prince. Also, sorry, I got a little cold right now, so yeah, if you're wondering why I might sound a bit stopped up, stuffy nose kind of thing, that's why. But no, I'm talking about Goblet of Fire, and I'm gonna be real. I think this is the best Harry Potter movie to date. I'll tell you why. Now let's get this out of the way. Either you're a movie fan or you are a Harry Potter fan. You can be both. I'm both. Understand that. Many Harry Potter fans couldn't give a rat's you-know-what about movies in general. And the reason I say that is, and it's the same thing with Star Wars. That's why people can't get enough of Star Wars lately. They can't just enjoy the original 6 movies. And you know everything. Folks, the lore itself isn't important. Now, if you want to dedicate your life and your free time to know all this random lore about a made-up universe or world, by all means, you can do that if you want. It's none of my business, but it doesn't seem like a very productive, outlook on things. It doesn't seem like a productive life. Now, with movies, I would 100% to be considered an art form. Now, people like Disney, when they're making Star Wars and Marvel these days, they don't really care about the art to it. They're gonna pump out whatever they can do the fastest, the cheapest, because they know all the fans will eat up anything. If it's crap and slop and sewage, they don't give a crap. But I do. I choose not to watch that. But people always say the biggest problem with Goblet of Fire usually is that, it doesn't really follow the book 100% like the first 2 movies do. Which I'm like, first 2 movies, see, you could do that. Because, they were smaller, 200 to 300 pages. Or maybe it was 300 pages, yeah. 300 pages to 350, I guess. But those ones you could do. And even then, they made those 2 movies, the first 2, 2 hours and 30 to 40 minutes. It's insane. Not including the extended versions, which I only can watch on Hulu. I can't watch those on my DVDs and 4Ks and Blu-rays. You can look separately at the deleted scenes, but I got a problem with people's argument being, sorry, bear with me. People's argument is that it's not 100% accurate when it comes to they don't have all the winky stuff. They don't have the house elf civil rights thing. They don't even have Bagman, I think his name was. And bear with me. It's been a couple years since I've read the book. I love the movie though. I love the book. The book's my favorite in the entire book series. But even as somebody who loves the book, I also love the movie, and I think the movie is just as good as, in my opinion. But look, I'm gonna say it now. All the Rita Skeeter turning into a bug, or whatever. By the end, does that matter? Because I'm gonna say it. J.K. Rowling, she can make enjoyable books. She does not know how to pace the story. That's why these books would be terrible if they were super similar to the, like if the movies were super similar. Because think about it, they find out all this stuff about Rita Skeeter being a bug and stuff. At least Hermione does, I think. And it's like after the final climax of the movie. So it's like, what does it matter? By the final climax of the movie, that's it. That's the final bit. It kind of has to go a bit downhill. You can't, it's like, for school, when we're doing essays, there's a thing called CER, claim, evidence, reasoning. They taught us that you want to have your evidence in the evidence spot. You want to introduce information in the claim and in the evidence. And for your reasoning, you want to have the analysis. Now, I understand they were like, it had to circle back. Like, there had to be payoff, with the Rita Skeeter thing. But you're introducing that factor right away at the end, and it was like pointless. But look, speaking of pointless, let me get back on track. People who appreciate Harry Potter, appreciate Star Wars, you need to like it. You need to like the movies. If you're going to say you like movies, for the movie itself and not the story, not the characters. You need to like it. I mean, and of course the characters and story of the movie are important itself. But whether or not it's accurate to the book doesn't matter, okay? I mean, it does. Let's get this straight. Getting the lore right is important. And they got it right. I don't think there's like I don't think there's one thing that will contradict the rest of the movies after. Or the rest of the movies before. Now, are there retcons? Yes. But let me just get this straight. All the retconning started in the third movie. The movie everybody loves. The one that couldn't even get the third book right. Now, I love that movie. But there were very much artistic direction. Now, personally, it doesn't appeal to me more. I think Goblet of Fire appeals to me more. But there's a lot of artistic direction that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. No, I'm sorry. It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense in Prisoner of Azkaban, such as adding the clock tower, moving Hagrid's hut, because I feel like the castle was kind of boring in the first two. It was still cool. It could have just been more artistic and more interesting. And I feel like the director for the third one, I know who it is. I don't want to say it because I feel like I'm going to mess up the name. Sue me, I don't care. But I think I like the redesign of the castle. And that was a part of the artistic choice of the movie. Because he cared about the movie itself and it was clear. So I didn't add every single little thing. So when you start saying, oh, I like the third one the most, don't blame it on the movie. Blame it on J.K. Rowling. Because for the most part, the movies got it right. And they're just copying J.K. Rowling. So I don't know what to tell you. The fourth one isn't bad. Like, think about artistic liberty. Stephen King hated for a while the Shining movie, and people hate Goblet of Fire for the same reason, because it's not completely true to the book. Now, I think the Shining movie, 1980 film, is way better than the TV movie that Stephen King tried to do after. That was awful. I think that's what they're going to do with the show, and it's just going to be outrageously awful. It's going to feel low budget, I bet. It's gonna be awful. I'm gonna say it now. I'm gonna call it. But basically, what I'm trying to say is people love The Shining now. It's one of the most iconic horror films of all time. One of the most iconic films of all time in general. And there are tons of creative liberty in there. Like, it's not even completely on the nose of whether or not there are ghosts or not, or if it's just going on in like folks' head in the movie. There are artistic ways to show that stuff. Let the viewer think without the words on the page telling everything for you. Right? It's the same thing. Wouldn't you love it if we just had a narrator of Harry telling every single detail from the book? At that point, read the damn book. Don't watch the movie. What's the movie gonna do you just... Dude, you're gonna like the movie just as much as you did before if it was one accurate. And if it's the story problem, then blame J.K. Rowling, like I said. If y'all think it's a lousy story, then blame her. I think it's a good story. I think it's more interesting than Prisoner of Azkaban. I'm gonna be honest. But look, folks, at the end of the day, it's like Goblet of Fire, there's just... Think about the special effects. I mean, the dragon's very good, if you ask me. I don't know, that dragon, the first task, aged really well. Now you compare it to other things from the second one or the other ones, like that CGI is pretty darn good. It aged pretty well. You compare it to the Basilisk CGI or the any of the CGI in the first two movies, maybe some of the third, you'll notice, holy, this looks a heck of a lot better. I'd have to agree. You look at the Basilisk, dude. Both the Basilisk CGI and the animatronic, it's not great, I'm going to say it. And, you know, I love it for what it is because it has charm. But you can't sit there and tell me that nostalgia isn't a factor. You can't say this movie's terrible because it's either not nostalgic or it went to it had a different creative difference. Just say you don't like it. Don't say it's horrible. I think Half-Blood Prince is the worst in the franchise. I don't think it's horrible though. I just think it's lackluster. You know? I think it's the worst, but it's lackluster. Like, Goblet of Fire has so many great visuals. I'll name a few. The opening scene where you see Nagini going through the graveyard to the Grim Reaper. It has a very different look compared to the other three movies previously, and it's just cool, and it's just a good shot. There's the whole castle, fly around the castle in the first task is awesome. The maze. Now, I'll get to the maze. I don't know. Some of the maze stuff doesn't really work for me. Like, when it comes to, like, you know, like, I feel like they maybe should have added the other stuff in the maze. But now that I think, maybe it would have been too busy. Who knows? That's probably what it would have been. It would have been too busy in the end, now that I think about it. So I'm glad the way it is. Now, the shots, once again, in the maze, it's very interesting. It's eerie. You know, the movie knows how to do tone. It has a lot of emotion. You know, think about it's the dance. It's the Yule Ball. It's your first time. That's a real school thing. That's not something they introduced in the other three. A school dance, something you'd have. So it's like, that's a very, not emotional per se, but it's relatable. You know, this is the first student death of the franchise. I guess really, realistically, death of the franchise, now that I think about it. No, not true. I'm thinking about Cedric, folks, but I guess there's Frank at the beginning of the movie. But no, that's a student, the first student death, okay? Okay, there's Moaning Myrtle, but that's more like dark. That's less emotional. But she didn't die like during that time. You know, she died 50 years previously. But no, like I was saying, it's just they did it right. Like the shots, great. The emotion, the music, it's very different. Patrick Doyle, I think he did a great job. Considering he really hasn't done too much stuff. Now, I know he has done stuff. I don't think I could tell you right off the top of my head. But I've checked out his work. It's pretty good, but this is by far this score is tied with the second one. I think these ones are these two are easily the greatest scores of the franchise. This one is just so different, and it's beautiful, it's scary, it's intense, and it's different. It's awesome. Like it's just, you need to refresh it. You need to refresh the ideas and the looks and the sounds of every movie every once in a while, or it's gonna get stale. That's why Star Wars these days sucks. When they introduce something new, it's either awful or they just let it get stale. It's like they don't know what they're doing. But there was clear creative motive. You know? And I hate to say it, there wasn't too much creativity for the first two, at least not the first one. Third one, there was a lot of creativity. But other stuff, such as, you know, it's just, once again, if there's anything besides that I've already covered that you think is wrong, I feel like you might be nitpicking. You know, to each their own, man. If you don't like the film, I want to say, yeah, no. I'm gonna refrain from saying. If you don't like the film, that's fine. But I feel like you don't really have a right to say it's an awful movie. I mean, you can. Who's stopping you? But it's like, you clearly don't, like, look at it for what it is. You look at it and notice basic changes, stuff that it hurts your little brain because it's not similar to the stuff fed to you. So it makes you think about things, and it makes you... It makes you think about and appreciate it for something that it wasn't originally, which it's an adaptation once again. It's going to be different than the book a bit because remember, the movie is its own thing. People are too tied with the books with this franchise, and that's what annoys me so much, is that the books aren't everything. Okay? You playing Lego Harry Potter, are you going to expect that, which it's based off the movies, you going to expect that to be 100% accurate? You're going to expect that to be everything in the movie in the Lego game? Heck no, it's a Lego game. Enjoy it for what it is. And if you don't enjoy it, you might just not like Lego games. And it's the same thing with Goblet of Fire. Maybe you just might not be the biggest fan of movies. I'm going to be real. If you think the Quidditch World Cup, the whole thing should have been there, that's fine, but someday you got to realize there's something called pacing. That wouldn't have worked in the entire film in the end of the day. You're learning about all this stuff in the book that's important because, once again, in a book you have all this opportunity. They're not going to explain everything and show everything in the Wizarding World because at the end of the day, you don't need to know everything about the Wizarding World because the Wizarding World doesn't exist. If you want to learn a lot about a history of something, learn about real history. Don't care all about this fake history, especially if it's already in the book. It doesn't matter if it's not in the movie, because the point of the Quidditch World Cup at the end is to show, at the end of the day, it's to show that the Dark Mark, the Death Eaters, Voldemort supporters, they're rising. And it shows the issue of the film. We don't need to see the Quidditch World Cup because we've seen Quidditch in the other ones. And people might say, well, it abruptly ends. Big freaking deal, dude. You get to, it's like, well, we didn't get to see anything. You got to saw all the Quidditch players flying about like you do in the other movies. And you don't even think, too, that them flying looks a whole lot better than the other ones, but you don't care about that. You care too much about the story and how accurate it is to the book. So, I'm going to say it. You might just not be a movie fan, and that's fine. That's fine. But, you know, thanks for listening. I'll see you folks later. I'll probably talk about another movie franchise. You know, I was thinking of talking about Jurassic Park or Star Wars. Thinking about talking about Lost World. I'm not a big fan of that movie, spoiler alert. Same with Revenge of the Sith. I might talk about that later. But, you know, I'll see y'all folks later. Have a great one.